Hi everybody, Kirsten here. Happy New Year's, and I am going to be doing another video today. This video is going to be my top 10 books that I read in 2014. These books were all published in 2014 as well because I didn't want to get too confusing because I read 194 books this year according to my Goodreads challenge, and there's no way I could narrow down all of the books that I read. So we're just going to do the ones that were released in 2014. Okay, so the first book I'm going to talk about is Isla and the Happily Ever After by Stephanie Perkins. It is the third book in the Anna and the French Kiss series. It is a series, but they seem more like companion novels to me since they all, like, you don't really have to read the other books to read any of them. So it's kind of weird how they do that. But anyways, so this book follows Isla and Josh. If you have read Anna and the French Kiss, Josh is one of Anna's friends that goes to school with them in France, and you do see a little bit of Isla. She is there a couple of times in the book, kind of like is there for Anna, and then Anna sees her scribbling Josh's name all over a notebook. But Isla is my favorite of the three, which is kind of weird to say because Anna is so amazing. But Isla is definitely my favorite. I think that she's the most relatable of the three characters that she has written about. She is just a normal 17-year-old girl going to school, doesn't know what she wants to do with her life, doesn't know what college she wants to go to, just kind of going with the flow of things. And there isn't a particular quirk that makes her who she is like there are with Anna and Lola. So it's just kind of nice to read a character like that. I also really loved Josh and their back and forth in their relationship. It was very heartbreaking at times, but it is one of my favorites of this year, and that is Isla. Next book I'm going to be talking about is the third book in the Raven Cycle series, and that is this is Blue Lily Lily Blue by Maggie Stiefvater. This book kind of picks up where Dream Thieves left off. I don't want to go too much into detail talking about this book because if you have not read The Raven Boys or The Dream Thieves, it'll be very spoiler heavy. So I'm just going to kind of do a quick synopsis of the series. It is about a group of 5 friends, Blue, Gainsey, Noah, Adam, and Ronan. They are after a slumbering king, and it's very sort of paranormal and a lot of fun kind of fantasy aspect in there as well. It's very creepy at times, but so good. I absolutely love these books, and if you have not read them, you definitely should. The next book I'm going to talk about is In the Afterlight by Alexandra Bracken. It is the third and final book in the Darkest Minds trilogy. It is the nice, pretty wrap-up of Ruby and the gang and everything that happens in the camps. It's kind of nice. You get more of an idea of what's going on with the Children's League and everything that's going on outside of these camps. It is kind of rushed in the end, but I still love it because I do love these books. It is one of those series that isn't wrapped up in a nice little bow when you finish it, which is good because it is a darker series. So it needed kind of that open ending to maybe even come out with maybe another book. Alexandra Bracken, maybe you should. I don't know, I'm just throwing that out there. The next book I'm going to talk about is The Queen of the Tearling by Erica Johansson. You can tell by the amount of tabs that are in this book that I loved it. I absolutely did. This is an adult fantasy novel. It is part of a series, and the next book comes out next year, and I'm so excited about it. I cannot wait. If you are looking for a good fantasy series that does not have romance, like there's no romance in this book whatsoever in the first one. It is about a young woman who has been sent away to live with her foster parents, and the Queen's Guard comes and takes her away to take her to the Tearling to be queen of these people and to kind of restore a balance to this kingdom that has been left in shambles since her mother passed away. And it is amazing. There's so much evil and magic, and it's just like the perfect amount. It does have a little bit of a dystopian feel to it though as well, because you do find out that there was an America and an England, and basically this world got taken back into the Dark Ages, and it's really so good. And if you haven't read it, you definitely need to. Again, it is The Queen of the Tearling by Erica Johansson. The next book I'm going to talk about is Dreams of Gods and Monsters by Laini Taylor. And this is the third and final book in the Daughter of Smoke and Bone trilogy. It is the longest of the three, and if you have read any of the Daughter of Smoke and Bone books, you just kind of know that they are very long-winded, have a lot of detail. This is no exception, but it's definitely the best of the three. I absolutely love it. The war kind of comes to a head in this book, and you get to see a lot of awesome battle scenes and a lot of character development and growth between these characters, and it's so good. I couldn't put it down, and I literally like devoured this book in a night. I could not put it down. I did not sleep at all. It was so good. And if you are unfamiliar with the Daughter of Smoke and Bone trilogy, it is about a war between the Chimera and, I guess they're angels. They're not typical angels how we see them, but it is about a war between them, and Kairu is kind of in the middle. She is in the middle of all this and kind of is the catalyst that kind of gets everything going, and it's really amazing. The next book I'm going to talk about is Landline by Rainbow Rowell. This is her adult contemporary that came out this year. It is about a woman, Georgie McCool. How awesome is that name? I don't know how Rainbow Rowell gets away with names like that, but it just totally she does, and it's awesome. She is a woman that has a family, and her husband goes to his family's house for Christmas, and she has to stay behind for work, and she can't get a hold of him for whatever reason, so she's been going to her mother's house, and she has this old yellow landline telephone that is in her room, and she calls her husband on it, and it takes her back to her husband when they were kids in the 90s. So it's really cool how that happens, and her journey. And the entire time I was reading this book, I was just shouting at her, just, what are you doing talking to a magic phone? Just go to your freaking husband. But I mean, it was still amazing, and I was like super cry the whole time. It was so good. All right, the next book I'm going to talk about is Everything Leads to You by Nina LaCour. This is a YA contemporary that came out this year, and it is one of the only books that I have read that has lesbian characters that didn't make me want to throw it against a wall. And it's so hard when you're reading books about characters that aren't your typical heterosexual character, because they always try to make the fact that the character is gay be a kind of shtick and make it like an obstacle they have to get through. And it's not one of those books. It just is what it is. She's just another girl. She just happens to be gay, and she just happens to fall in love with another girl, and it's really great. And she's so complex, and I love this story, and it is kind of a trumping of a Manic Pixie Dream Girl scenario, which is amazing because there are so many YA novels and authors that are praised for this that actually don't get it right in the way that this book does. So if you have not read this book, I definitely recommend it. It is one of, if not my favorite book that came out this year. The next book I'm going to talk about is Ugly Love by Colleen Hoover. I love Colleen Hoover books. I've noticed that a lot of people either absolutely love Colleen Hoover or absolutely hate Colleen Hoover. There's like no in between.
Would I like her?
No. But I do absolutely love Colleen Hoover. This is a new adult book, as all of her books are new adult, but this is definitely one of the darker of her books. If you are familiar with any of her books, maybe Someday Super Fluffy, Slam series, Super Fluffy, Hopeless, Devastating. This is definitely on that devastating spectrum. There's two narrative points. The male narrative takes place in the past, and the female narrative takes place in the present, and they do kind of merge into one. I will say this, as a parent, it was hard for me to read about this because it does deal with some heavier things that happen to small children, and so just be wary of this when you go into reading it. The book I'm going to talk about is actually a holiday book, but I had to include it, and it was really hard for me to choose between this one and Cruel Beauty, so I'm actually going to probably talk about Cruel Beauty in this video as well. But that is My True Love Gave to Me, and it is written by a ton of authors. It is 12 short stories written by 12 amazing young adult authors, and it is edited by Stephanie Perkins. If you are looking for a really quick fix of Rainbow Rowell or Laini Taylor or Stephanie Perkins or was it David Levithan? Yeah, or David Levithan, I know that this is definitely going to be good for that, because this is just a nice, short and sweet, simple stories that deal with the holidays. They do have books that are, some of the stories do deal with Christmas, some New Year, some Hanukkah, some interesting Krampus stories. So definitely pick this up if you haven't. And the next book I'm going to talk about is no surprise, and that is going to be Ruin and Rising by Leigh Bardugo. And this is the final book in the Grisha trilogy.
Oh, the Darkling. I love him so much.
There you go. So I love the Darkling so much. I just love this series. It is my favorite YA trilogy that I have read so far. And it is a high fantasy series, and it's so amazing. It deals with the Darkling and Alina, and I do love this book so much because Alina comes to her own in this book. Although my Darkling does meet some tragic circumstances, I still absolutely love this book. And if Alina could just be Alina the way she is in this book all the time, I'm pretty sure I'd read more about it too. But that is Ruin and Rising by Leigh Bardugo. So I know that's already 10, but I could not leave Cruel Beauty out, so I'm going to talk about Cruel Beauty by Rosamund Hodge. This is a retelling of The Beauty and the Beast, and I absolutely love this. It is a high fantasy story. The names are interesting. I always get them mixed up. It's Ignifix is the beast, and Nyx is the princess, so to speak, in this story. And both of these characters are very ambiguous and morally gray, and I think that's why I love this book so much, because usually when you are talking about the Beauty and the Beast, there's always one evil character and one good character, and she saves them, and it's so amazing, blah, blah, blah. That's not what this book is about, and that's why I love it so much. Nyx is very ambiguous and very morally gray, and she gets seduced by the darkness of Ignifix, and although she still is trying to take down the beast, so to speak, she does fall in love with him, and it's just so good. If you have not read it, please do. She is coming out with another book next year about Red Riding Hood, so it's going to be amazing as well. So definitely pick this book up if you haven't. So those are my top 10, technically top 11 books that came out in 2014. Why don't you go ahead and leave a comment below talking about your favorite books that came out this past year. If I have not read them or picked them up, it's a good way for me to kind of get an idea of what I should have on my to-be read. So I love it when you guys do that. But everybody have a happy new year. Thank you for watching, and I will see you next time.